Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton once said, "We must stop thinking of the individual and start thinking about what is best for society." My topic is the good of the whole is more important than the good of the individual. Affirmative. I agree with my statement because I believe the happiness and well-being of a majority of people is more important than that of a mere individual. Chairman Mao and Adolf Hitler, they were both leaders who thought of themselves before others. Together they killed 111 million people. They killed all of those people because they were too blinded by needing to get what they wanted. Millions of lives could have been saved if they had just thought of the good of the whole. In the classroom, a teacher might be going a little too fast for you, but teaching at just the right speed for the rest of the class. You might feel as though they refuse to slow down so you can understand or are ignoring you. But teachers have a certain curriculum they have to teach in a certain amount of time. It's on you to go during break or enrichment and work with that teacher. They'll be glad to help you one-on-one after class, but during class the teacher's priority is the entire class, not one individual. My first main point is that we should leave the world better than we found it. My first piece of evidence comes from the words of Martin Luther King Jr., a name recognized by all because he made an impact on society. In 1961, when he made his I Have a Dream speech, he said, "I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true." He left the world more peaceful and equal than he found it. My second piece of evidence comes from the actions of Martin Luther in the 1500s. Martin Luther saw immoral and self-serving actions within the Catholic Church. Some people within the church started selling indulgences and told people that for a price their sins would be forgiven, which wasn't true. Very few benefited from this practice, and overall the Catholic society as a whole was hurt. Martin Luther created the 95 Theses and posted them all around where people would see them. What he wrote was inspirational to almost all who read it, and he left the world a better place by restoring faith and basic religious beliefs. My second main point is that we should reach out and look for ways to help and contribute to others. My first piece of evidence is Old Major from Animal Farm. He saw that the animals were being mistreated by the farm owner, Mr. Jones. He felt that their society would be better off without Mr. Jones, so he started his idea of a rebellion, which resulted in the animals overthrowing Mr. Jones's rule and becoming a stronger and happier society. My second piece of evidence is in seed folks, when everyone technically shared a garden, but kept to themselves and got overprotective of their plants and property. When someone ever intruded, it created a riot. But when people took down their fences and barriers and shared a garden together, they were happy and the garden lot became a peaceful place. My opponent might argue that it's more important to do things for yourself or the individual before focusing on the importance of the rest of the world. But if you're always helping everyone else, then when it's your turn to find yourself, you'll have a team and group of people there to catch you if you fall. Thank you. I now stand ready for cross-examination.
Sorry, 2 minutes to cross-examine Christina, and those 2 minutes begin.
Okay. Are you aware of the fact that chess is a part of life and something certain people play daily?
Yes.
Are you aware that there are 16 pieces on one side in chess?
No.
Well, yeah. I'm not sure if you're familiar with chess, but in chess, the king is one of the pieces, and if your opponent checkmates your king, you lose the game. Are you aware that you have to protect your king with the other pieces to win the game?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you aware that even if they were your most powerful pieces, like the queen, you would still have to sacrifice them in order to save the king?
Okay.
So, this board game kind of signifies the importance of the individual piece, outweighs the lives of the 15 other pieces.
Well, this is in one game, and if you think about modern day life, you don't sacrifice your lives just for the good of one individual. Not everyone in our country sacrifices their lives to make sure that one person stays alive. Everyone works together to stay alive, and this is merely just one game.
Well, our resolution never stated anything about the group and the individual having to be in real life.
Well, this is one example where you might feel that the good of the individual is more important than the good of the whole, but the whole is sacrificing themselves because the whole wants the king, or they want their side to win. So for the king to win, they must sacrifice themselves, and if the king wins, then they all win, because they think the cause that they're dying for or losing for is important enough.
Okay, moving on. Are you aware that the United States of America has a military?
I'm aware of that.
Are you aware that part of the United States...
We do have 3 minutes for your opening statement, and that time begins
fighting in World War I. Your brother has been captured by the enemy. Numerous soldiers have already died trying to rescue him. Is it worth it to risk yet another life for just one individual? I stand in negation of the resolution, the good of the group is more important than the good of the individual. The foundational principles of our country, America, are based on the utmost value of the individual. It is precisely the valuing of the individual that makes our nation great. Communism values the importance of the collective over that of the individual. The First Amendment to the United States Constitution legalizes freedom of speech. That means that the individual has the right to say whatever he or she wants, even if it offends the group. Protecting that individual right has been deemed one of the most important fundamental concepts to our country's success. Other countries such as China don't have that individual freedom. Without these freedoms, you don't have the ability to live your life as you would. Instead, you have to be told by someone else how to live. Yin Chang once said, "While I listened to the words of homage to Mao, I remember Mao's awesome power like a blanket over China, threatening to smother whomever he chose." This quote represents the absolute power Chairman Mao had over his people and the limited freedoms they had during the Cultural Revolution. My second point is the safety, honor, and respect of the individual is of utmost importance, even if ensuring it risks the group. The rights and freedom of the individual is so important to our nation that it is codified in the United States Soldier's Creed. "I will never leave a fallen comrade" is part of the United States Soldier's Creed. If our own military believes that risking multiple lives for the life of one is critical to our success as a nation, shouldn't we share their values and apply them to our own life? In nature, bees are another fantastic example of the supreme dominating importance of the individual. In a hive, there are thousands of bees. These include drone worker bees and the queen bee. Thousands of drone bees work hard every day and die every day. The one queen bee is protected by the drone bee because she has to lay thousands of eggs to keep up the bees' numbers. In fact, the queen bee lays 2,000 eggs a day. Those eggs add up to more than her own body weight. The worker bees fend off threats to the queen by using her stinger, their stingers. Once a bee uses its stinger, it automatically dies. Thousands of bees die each day trying to protect the queen. These examples provide substantial evidence that the good of the individual is more important than the good of the whole. My opponent might argue that sacrificing multiple people for the life of one is pointless. If they do, I would argue that if there is an individual who has sacrificed their life trying to fight for one common goal, shouldn't you do the same? The Army Rangers motto is "No man left behind." Even our United States Army Rangers believe that individuals who sacrifice themselves for a greater good should be equally repaid by others. Our great nation, the United States of America, has stated over and over again that the good of the individual is more...
Christina, you're going to have 2 minutes to cross-examine Luke, and that time begins.
If the needs of the few are the most important, then it would seem that you're saying that people would be able to bring guns and pit bulls wherever they go in order to feel safe, while making a majority of people feel scared or unsafe.
When did we ever decide that the needs of the few were the most important?
You're saying that the good of the individual, and that individual might feel as though in order for them to feel safe, they must be able to be armed at all times and be protected by a bunch of pit bulls in order for them to feel safe and secure. And that's the good of that individual if they want that. Are you saying that that's okay?
In some cases, I guess.
Would you like me to use a modern day example?
Yes, please.
Okay. At the state fair, some people said that they wanted to be able to bring guns to the state fair. And while some people would be able to bring guns, they could be hidden somewhere and you wouldn't know if they would actually be allowed to use those guns. You could be killed at any moment. The state fair did say no to this, but they did fight for this and said they wanted to bring guns to the state fair to feel safe.
Okay.
So are you saying that that they're allowed to do that while making a large amount of people feel very scared and unsafe?
Yes.
Okay. Next question. It sounds to me that if the logic that the good of the individual is more important than the good of the whole stands, that it would be okay for any business to build a factory and pollute the air and water in order to make their business as successful as possible.
Okay.
So you're okay with people polluting the air and destroying our environment just for the success of that one person, even if you're not that one person getting that success.
I'm not exactly sure how this relates to the other.
Time. You each have 1 minute to prepare for a closing statement. You're welcome to use the table behind you and pencils provided. Time. If you please return to the podium. Christine, you're going to have 1 minute for your closing statement. And that time begins.
Politician Paul Ryan once said that every successful individual knows that his or her achievement depends on a community of people working together. Every day, soldiers go out and fight for the good of the whole. They sacrifice their lives because they think that the cause they're fighting for is important enough. My opponent argued that laws are made for individuals, but each individual has a right to those laws, and as a whole, we are given the same rights and opportunities. As the successful author Brian Tracy once said, successful people are always looking for opportunities to help others. Unsuccessful people are always asking, what's in it for me? Thank you.
Alright, so Luke, you're going to have 1 minute for your closing statement. And you're ready, that time begins anytime.
I believe that the good of the whole is not more important than the good of the individual. As I previously stated, if your own country believes that the good of the individual is more important than the good of the group, shouldn't we? Also, the safety of the individual is a priority, even if ensuring it damages the group. My opponent argued that Chairman Mao might have been concerned about his well-being, but as I previously also stated, he was a supporter of communism, which values the good of the collective over the good of the individual. As the Army Ranger goes, no man left behind, I ask you, even if your group suffered, would you leave your man behind?